You know what? I'll just say this. Is the grocery store going to get mad at me if I complain about the carts not being returned?
Wait, what?
Like if I come on the podcast and complain about something or talk about something, am I supposed to talk about no people, places, or things while I'm here?
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
Hello everyone, how are you today? I hope you're having a really good day so far. If you're new here, my name's Taylor. I come to you from Baltimore City, Maryland. And here on my YouTube channel, I feature content that is generally focused on knitting and spinning. In this week's episode of what I call the Thread to Mend podcast, I'm going to sit down and share with you the progress I've made on my very stiff, this thing is like, I mean, I feel like if I were to let go, it would just like, it would just, I don't know. It's very stiff. I'm knitting the Bluebird cardigan as a pullover. It is a worsted weight, and I'm knitting with a couple woolen spun yarns. And I said I would never need a colorwork yoke worsted weight project. But you know, I was wrong. My desk is set up right next to a window, and I was wearing all winter my heavy Icelandic colorwork cardigan. And so when I was looking through my stash and my favorites online, I put these two together, and I'm so happy that I did. And this knits so fast. Like, I feel very impressed by myself for knitting this much, which is really not even a lot because I know many of you watching are real knitters who knit all the time and knit quite a lot, and you're probably looking at me thinking I can do that in a day. Which I did do a lot of this in just a couple sittings, and I have a very distractible mind, and I hope that you might sit and chat with me about all the things I've been thinking about lately. I also want to review a few patterns that I favorited this morning on Ravelry as I was, I think I just fell down a rabbit hole. I wasn't really looking for anything, but I'm very happy with my combination of yarn from my stash and this project. I've been reevaluating. I wish I had blocked it for you. I haven't blocked it since I was just starting out the color work, so it is a little bit wonky and it's all rolled up. You can't really see half of the motif, but I'm just starting sort of the blossom of what is, I think, a thistle. So it's really coming out nice, and it looks quite small, but there are a lot of stitches on this cable and they are very kind of mushed onto it, so you can't see the full diameter of this circle right now, but it will be a somewhat oversized yoke. And I know that once the yarn is soaked and blocked, it will grow and loosen up and soften tremendously. I know because I swatched and I washed my swatch. This is double because it's two strands held together, this is one, but it's just they feel very different, pre-blocked and post-blocking. So this is my number one project. This is the project I'm taking on vacation. This is the project that I know I can easily execute almost anywhere. It is a dark color, and I'm a little nervous that I won't see if I drop a stitch, but I'm just gonna keep, like, once I get to the stockinette section of it anyway, the color work really keeps you in check with dropping stitches. But because we vacation we go to a cabin off grid, and it doesn't have great lighting because it's off grid. So I'm a little worried I won't be able to see, but there's a little LED solar panel light. So if I need light, I'll use the light. But that's one thing I've noticed when we stay there, is that I can't bring the fiddliest of things because it's much harder to work on in the evening hours. I'm still carrying this project in my gorgeous little vintage clutch, and this was a gift from my friend Olivia. She found it and thought it would be perfect for me, and I think she's right. So this is what I'm carrying around. I think that I'm hoping that before we leave to go out of town, I will finish the color work section so that I won't have to carry around with me whatever leftover yarn there is from that contrast color. And then I caked up 3 full skeins. And I hope that I'm not overpacking or underpacking with the amount of yarn I think I can knit through. So I'm bringing this for sure. And I have a lot of goals. I always do. Every Saturday I sit down to record my weekly podcast video. When it is weekly, I think about what am I going to be working on? And if I don't start it right away, I do everything but. I very much would like to finish my Fabian tee once and for all, because I think that this will truly be my backup warm weather. Of course, it's mohair, so it's not the most warm weather friendly, but my backup lighter than a colorwork worsted weight sweater option for Rhinebeck. This also hasn't been blocked since I split for the sleeves, so I need to, this is the worst part of the project, pick up the stitches along the side of the neck. I have found this to be the most fiddly, but it's the one part that I want to do first before everything else, because I'm playing a game of yarn chicken where I have this much fabric left over from the shawl I'm knitting straight into this project. So I'm thinking that this could be my collar and the cuffs of my sleeves, which I'm basically just going to pick up and start the ribbing on, or whatever the methodology is. I haven't even read the pattern yet. But I'm going to read the pattern tonight. I'm going to finish the collar tonight. That's my promise to myself. And I'm going to start the sleeves before the weekend is over. And I would very much like to have a plan for the bottom hem before I commute to work on Tuesday, so that I can maybe work on that while I commute and get this finished. This is the project bag I'm planning to pack for our trip. So it has my favorite little darning needle and Notion canister. This holds all of my cable connectors and cable tighteners. And what else do I have in here? Ugh, I love a glass nail file. This one is from Hollow Taco. I have lip balm. This is best lip balm of all time. They changed their packaging, so they don't have this cute little wooden label anymore. It's a regular label now, but this one is nice because if you wash it in the washing machine, it pretty much stays intact and doesn't get destroyed. Ask me how I know. And then, of course, my fancy scissors. Something about fancy scissors, it just feels like nothing's complete without fancy scissors. Of course, I also pack hand sanitizer. I love the little Bath & Body Works hand sanitizers. This one's from last Christmas. It's hopefully not expired. Tape measure from Farmer's Daughter Fibers. And I don't know where I got this cute little plastic thing from. Some sort of package at some point. But this has kind of more of the same things that are in my little clover canister. But I also have this sweet little dog tag that reminds me how to do the Kitchener stitch, which I love. This is my project bag for my colorwork project once it, it needs a little bit of overflow right now. So there's that, and that's what I'm planning to bring. I talked about, actually I showed you the progress I made on my hand spun ranunculus, and I decided it's just not a project I'm actually gonna finish. I devoted a day to this, not a whole day obviously, but in a basically one sitting I sat down and did this, and I'm just realizing that I have other plans for this yarn. I have visioned this yarn being a shawl since I started spinning it. When I knew that I wasn't managing the color in the spinning process, I knew I wouldn't want a sweater. I wouldn't want to wear a sweater made from it. So once I saw the pooling from the short rows, I just thought, ugh, that's not what I want. I would like ranunculus, but I don't know. I think I need to look at different yarn in my stash. Like, that project is so confusing to substitute yarn for because I would never actually knit it in a lace weight yarn again. So I'm thinking if I have DK weight yarn, I don't know. If you do know, if you knit a ranunculus with 2 skeins of DK-ish weight yarn, I think it might even have less yarn. It's Swedish recycled wool yarn that I've had in my stash forever. I thought that might make a good ranunculus, or the ranunculus might make a good project for it, but I'm just not sure. And I ripped out the back panel of my, I'm not sure how to say it. I love that pattern. I, as you may already know, delusionally cast on with like 150 grams for the main color. Like, that's enough. And it wouldn't have been, because this is like a woolen spun yarn. And I'm going to knit Brian a new hat with this. I should have plenty to do that. And the front panel with all the color work, I didn't want to rip it out. I was having a hard time ripping out the section I picked up and knit off of it. So I think I might repurpose that piece of fabric into something. I just don't know what yet, like maybe a little pouch or something to hold delicate things. But those are my current projects right now. I do have plans, as I mentioned in previous videos, to cast on other things, and I haven't really been knitting any stitches on the hen wife shawl I showed you in my previous video, which is knitting my hand spun. So that's still in the other room downstairs, and that's about it. Oh, this is my hibernating Chained Oblivion, which once it becomes cold again, I'm gonna treat myself to finishing this. Maybe by the time I have my Rhinebeck sweater done and my backup sweater done, maybe I'll pick this up and work this in the fall, because it's gonna be a really pretty fall winter cardigan to wear. And that will open up my time and attention for things that I've also been wanting to knit. I was looking at the lace pattern I showed you that I was planning to knit this sweater quantity from my stash into, and you can really not pick up on the lace. This is more heathered, and it's called Chickadee Heathers. But I think that the heathered nature of it, you can't see the lace like I want to. And I was looking at the fit of every person's version of this, and I'm thinking about how I would want to knit it, and I still might knit it, but I'm not sure. If I don't knit that sweater with this yarn from my stash, I don't know what other yarn I would knit this sweater into, so that might just be a pattern that lives in my library for now. Hated the process of knitting the swatch, probably because it worked flat and I couldn't read my lace as easily, flipping from the front to the back and like understanding what was happening within the lace pattern. So there's a couple stitches I can see where like I purled and I should have knit, or vice versa, and that is so annoying to me. I hate making mistakes, especially in lace, because I feel like it muddies the whole situation. And I keep holding this upside down. This is actually the motif. I was on YouTube this morning. I saw that Knitting Jungle posted a new podcast video on her channel. If you don't know, Sarah has a knitting YouTube channel called Knitting Jungle, and I loved the project she's working on. I went to see her project page, and I just think that this project is stunning. I don't know that I will ever make it because I'm easily overwhelmed these days. I don't know why. I used to have whatever, I don't know. I feel like I don't like being challenged by knitting too much, and it seems like there's a lot going on here with this project, but I saw that and I thought, oh, that's so pretty. And then I fell into a rabbit hole of finding new things online to be knitting. And I think how it started to unravel was I found her Ravelry page and the project she has been knitting or has knit. And if you're not a viewer of her podcast, you don't know, but she knit this gorgeous colorwork self-drafted cardigan. And I just think it's so cool the way that it has sort of like a waist little band and like two different colorwork motifs. But anyway, I was fantasizing about like, ooh, what could I make next? And I see that she's working on this other colorwork project that's actually a published pattern. That is so neat. Isn't that neat? But the pattern is not accessible. It's out of print and it's from like a 2002 Norway publication. Dale of Norway, Salt Lake 2002 collection. I think it's like, I don't know why the Olympic rings are there, but it looks like that's the project she is knitting. I like the colors she's using more, but that's here nor there. I was looking at, so the designer is named Dale Design. And I started looking at Dale Design's other designs, and they're all from like the 80s and the 90s. Like he's been designing for a long time, apparently. And so I was favoriting a few of his patterns because they're very unique to me. Like I have not seen things like this where it's color work, but it's kind of like a collage of motifs. I really love that. I think that's very cool. And so I started, I just stumbled across her favorites. Sarah from the Knitting Jungle's favorites. Ooh, maybe I can find more new things to favorite. I'm gonna go back to my favorites and show you what I've been favoriting. So I was looking over at Dale Designs. I found 3 patterns that I favorited and I would like to knit. These ones are actually downloadable, so I don't have to source some out of print publication. But this one I thought was pretty cool. It's not quite the same collage of motifs. It's more like a symmetrical thing. This is a pattern where, and maybe I'm wrong to think that I would rather do it this way, but you see how where the sleeve meets the body? I don't love the use of a contrast color there. I feel like I'd rather utilize the dark color just so that they kind of like blend together more and there's not that sharp contrast between the body and the sleeves. I don't know, that's just my opinion.
That's my opinion!
This one is a sport weight sweater, and I don't know that I'll actually knit this because I'm not like obsessed with the motif, but I like the look of a raglan color work that doesn't start right at the neck, that like is just a little lower. I think that's an interesting idea. And the last thing that I favorited is also a cardigan. I just think the motif is really cool. If it were done in more neutral colors, I think it would really, it would be a vibe. So I fell into a Dale Designs rabbit hole, and then I stumbled across Natalie's project page of the pattern I was frogging, because I was like, okay, before I actually frog my project, let me look and see if I could reasonably figure out a way to make it work. And I don't have the yardage. It's not the right yarn base anyway. And I saw her version of it and I just thought that's exactly what I want, but I want to do it with the right yarn and with the right amount. And I just love the way that it fits her. And I think I also probably cast on the wrong size, maybe, or maybe they're all the same size. I don't know. I wouldn't have had the yardage. So that is that. One day I will make this. I just don't have the yarn I need. And I have an abundance of yarn that I need to knit my way through. So that is a project in my library that I can turn to at any time, and perhaps I shall make a note to myself. Oh my God, you know what? Wow. I need to look at my budget because there's this booth at both Maryland and New York Sheep and Wool Festival, Bare Naked Wools. They have like the most beautiful blends, and they're not cheap. Like, no yarn is really that cheap anymore. But they're an investment yarn, and like most is. Anyway, I digress. I always touch their yarn, and I always think about buying their yarn, and I always stop myself because I don't know what I would knit them into. I already have this pattern, so it's kind of like I get a $10 discount on the yarn because I don't have to buy the pattern to knit it into. So Natasha Hornby knit the, does anyone know how to pronounce this? Daisy? Is that how it's pronounced? Daisy? It's just spelled different than what I'm used to. Anyway, she knit it using Moondrake Co. Merino linen and Wool of Fame Merino Lino. So Merino linen blend yarns. And let's see what the sizing says. So if I knit the size small, it'll be about 33 inches, which is about my bust size. I could maybe save a little money by using a contrast color that I already have, because it's so little yardage, you really don't need a lot. And I'm sure I have a remnant skein somewhere of a fingering weight yarn. I could use the one I already knit the first version into. But let me check out Bare Naked Wools online and see what their bases are, because I want to know what I'm getting myself into in terms of this plan. The yarn that I think I remember touching and feeling is their Better Breakfast fingering. It is merino, alpaca, and nylon. It retails at $43 per skein, but they do come in 4-ounce skeins. So 43 divided by 113 times 100, it's like $38 for 100 grams. If I were to knit this project with the cap sleeves, I could just buy 2 skeins and still have about 75 more yards than I need, so that feels like not a game of yarn chicken. But if I did want to do the full like raglan sleeve, I would need to buy a 3rd skein, which is kind of annoying because $43 times 3 is $129, and I wouldn't spend $129 on a blouse. You know what I'm saying? But I would spend $86 on a blouse and hours of entertainment. That's how I think about my knitting these days. I just can't justify the luxury yarns all that much, but if I were to ever knit this project, it would be the most epic, gorgeous, delicious yarn. So I'm gonna have to think about it. That might be a Rhinebeck purchase in my future. I'm so tired. I got up at 6:30 this morning. The first thing I did was made a cup of tea, and I gardened for 2 hours from 6:30 to 8:30. I just grabbed my snips and a gallon pot, and I scurried around, and I filled nearly half my compost bin just full of debris and all the little plants that I had planted that really didn't like turn out the greatest. They're just getting way too much shade. So I'm very tired. It's only 3 o'clock. I've had a long day. That is it for this week's episode of the Thread to Mend podcast. I want to thank you so much for watching. If you want to find me on social media, my name is Taylor E. Owen on Ravelry and Instagram. You can find me on TikTok as Taylor Knits, and I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and that you take care.